Hello, hello, hello. Okay, 5 by 5. And we got Tim in first. And we got a red bird. Got a red bird, okay? We changed it. And Terry's on time. All right. Been a while you got on time. So everybody's getting a lot of snow right now. We're not. So that's hopefully. Yep, Daniel. Happy Sunday. Yep, football day. Daniel, I had a early show earlier. I don't know if you were listening or not. Lucy. We'll do a lot of short clips on tonight, you guys. We'll do short ones. Carol. $9 degrees? Yeah, I'm not sure what Michigan. Let's see what Michigan is. 15 degrees, and it feels like zero, they say. Paul. So, Paul, you should tell Ed about that bit, the interview. Tell her if that was good or not, because she likes what that video that we played with Holly. The Lions are on. The Lions are on right now, and that was a weird play. They got a interception on, and we got a touchdown. Playing the Rams. Oh, tomorrow night I'll be out at 7. I gotta meet my new doctor. She has me down for um 4 o'clock. So we'll have a. It's better for tomorrow night because my second game is tomorrow night. Miami will be playing at Pittsburgh in the snow tomorrow. Oh, Green Bay. Yeah, we need them to lose. If we beat the Rams, that will put us up there. But Philadelphia won today. Okay. We'll go ahead and get started. Hopefully everybody will be getting in here. JJ will hopefully be in. Okay, this one's 10 minutes with Nick. Today's video.
And the lack of transparency in this so-called investigation. We're now being told that somebody's been taken into custody. They've arrested somebody in connection with the shooting. However, we have not gotten any details whatsoever. We don't know the name. We don't know the gender. We don't know the age. We don't know the political affiliation, the motive, nothing. Absolutely nothing. And there's been so many inconsistencies and little things that just make absolutely no sense that are coming from law enforcement and staff at the university. I just have to ask, what the hell is going on here? And we even had this yesterday, which I just am mind blown and floored by. This is a post on Truth Social from Trump where he supposedly got completely false information while he was at the Army-Navy game yesterday. I don't know if you guys saw this, but 19 hours ago, he posted, "I have been briefed on the shooting that took place at Brown University in Rhode Island. The FBI is on the scene. The suspect is in custody. God bless the victims and their families." I'm sorry, God bless the victims and the families of the victims. He posted that the suspect was in custody when the killer was still at large. This is the president of the United States, ladies and gentlemen, and somebody gave him false intel. And he doesn't just take intel from random people on the side of the street, guys. Somebody that's close to the president gave him false information which the public can easily verify that it was false. So this is no laughing matter. This is not, a minor little boo-boo here. This is a massive blunder. And we need to know exactly who told him this false information, because just an hour later, he said the Brown University police reversed the previous statement. The suspect is not in custody. So he's saying that it was a statement from the Brown University police that made the statement that the suspect was in custody. And he said that they reversed their statement, but as far as I could tell, everywhere I looked, everywhere I could dig, there was never, at least publicly, a statement made by the Brown University police that there was a suspect taken into custody. So it just leaves me wondering, did they take somebody into custody secretly and then tell the president and then, have him reverse his statement online? Or was the statement completely false altogether and nobody was taken into custody and the president got false information?
There is.
I don't know, but it's very odd. It's very bizarre. And that's just one piece of the puzzle, folks. There's a lot more here. I want you to see this next. The chief of the Providence Police Department being asked about the fact that there's like 8,000 cameras at Brown University and we don't have any footage of the killer. We don't know who the killer is, despite the fact that Brown University is the most heavily surveilled place on planet Earth. That makes no sense. Listen to what he had to say.
What he had said, and I want to make sure we're correct in reporting this, that he may have walked out of the building, and I'm wondering, how did he get access to the building, and is there video from inside the building?
That I don't have. I don't have the answer if there's video inside that building that depicts him. There is video inside that building. However, I haven't seen him on video inside that building, and he did walk out of the building.
So can you explain that to me, in all of us? So he was in the building, but we don't have video of him in the building.
We haven't recognized him in the video yet. We do see some video from inside the building of a commotion. Clearly, students are running. However, we don't have from the video that I've seen so far, we don't have the suspect depicted in a video.
Is there any reason to believe this is international terrorism, or is this just some disgruntled
That
student?
we don't know yet.
A disgruntled student that just.
Guys, do you understand how ludicrous this is, what he's saying? We've seen video footage of students running around and escaping, but we don't see the suspect depicted in the video. Well, what are they running from? Look at a different angle. There's like 1,000 cameras all over the place. Every single square inch of that place is under surveillance. Look at a different camera. What the hell are we talking about here? Then you have this chick. This is the president of the university having absolutely no answers on the mass shooting 6 hours after the shooting occurred. She didn't know what was going on in the classroom. She didn't know if they were taking an exam. She didn't know if it was a club. She knew absolutely nothing 6 hours after the shooting occurred. Just an absolute embarrassment.
I'm catching up right now.
President, with all due respect, 6 hours after the shooting, and you said you don't know what was going on in that classroom?
5 minutes.
How does that happen? Were they taking an exam? Were they meeting for a club?
I don't know.
6 hours later, you're the president and you don't know.
I do not know.
Oh, that's kind of concerning.
So this lady's absolutely useless, and I guarantee you she takes home a fat paycheck from the university to sit on her butt and do absolutely nothing and have no interest in what was going on at her university while a crazed gunman is going around shooting and killing people. Just an utter embarrassment. Now, here's where things get really weird. And by the way, if you haven't liked the video, click that like button, subscribe, leave a comment down below, help the algorithm get this video out to more people. But Laura Loomer, she seems to believe that she knows exactly why the media is hiding the identity of the shooter, and it's because he's an Islamic terrorist. That's according to her. She says that the Brown University mass shooter yelled Allahu Akbar before opening fire on campus, according to sources. And you know what? I guess we'll find out if this is true very soon. I do believe we'll have the identity of the shooter in a matter of probably hours, sometime today, I would imagine. If they do verify and corroborate everything, they're going to put it out to the public here soon. So we're going to find out whether or not Laura Loomer's sources are correct or not in a very short amount of time. But this would definitely make sense as in terms of why they would be hiding something, because we just had before Thanksgiving the National Guardsman shot and killed by an Islamic terrorist that was brought here under asylum during the Biden administration. And if this were to be a second incident as we head into the holidays again, then a pattern starts to emerge. And that's something that the media, the Democrats, they are definitely not trying to allow that to come out and get away from them. They don't want that narrative out there because Trump, his policies on immigration, the moratorium on immigration from the third world, stopping asylum seekers, removing protective statuses, all those things that are part of the Trump agenda, they are screaming about. And this would just be cannon fodder for the Trump administration. So that would definitely provide a motive as to why they're hiding something. So we have Laura Loomer claiming that the shooter yelled Allahu Akbar before opening fire on campus. According to sources, she says this is from eyewitness testimony. And we have the media claiming that, the shooter yelled something, but we don't know what it was. Take a listen.
And called into police. I mean, the reality is that this is a 7-story physics and engineering building that was unlocked, but this individual went to a specific classroom that was essentially in a study session for an exam on economics and chose that classroom. And we know from a witness inside that this gunman yelled something. We don't know what this individual yelled and then began shooting. We also know that this person reportedly used a handgun. So a lot of questions also as to whether or not they recovered that handgun or what kind of ballistics evidence may have led them perhaps to this individual as well. So we have more questions than answers other than the fact that we know the lockdown has been lifted and at least according to the mayor, this community can breathe a sigh of relief. But hopefully we hope to find out more in the coming hours.
So those are very important details. This was allegedly a 7-story building. There was a lot of classrooms. There was a lot of people, but it was a targeted attack on one particular classroom that was in the Barris and Holly engineering building. So there was a reason that the killer went for that particular classroom. And I think once we find out the identity of the killer and more facts emerge, then we'll understand the motive. I mean, if it turns out that the teacher was Jewish or something of that nature, then a clearer picture starts to emerge as to why that specific classroom was chosen. Now, I think it's safe to say that something very fishy is going on here with this investigation in Rhode Island. And even after they identify the suspect, I'm still going to be suspicious about everything they say from that point forward, because this just does not make sense. And there's definitely a pattern that's emerging across the country and across the world. We had the National Guardsmen that were killed before Thanksgiving. We had this incident in Rhode Island. We had the ISIS attack in Syria. And obviously the massive mass shooting that occurred in Australia this morning as well. So there's definitely something happening here that the media and the left cannot ignore. And I think there's going to be an escalation from the Trump administration in shutting down the ability for these attacks to continue to occur. Now, ladies and gentlemen, I just wanted to make this video laying out the fact that
Okay, he did that really. He explained that really good. That shooting was something.
Stories? I got one for you. Okay, so back in the early 90s, George H.W. Bush decided to start settling some of the Somalians into Minnesota, of all places. Had something to do with agriculture. Since then, their population has increased to like 100,000 people. All in the same state, in the same city. Oh, let's not forget, they get first dibs on Section 8 housing. They also get government assistance. They also have these huge speakers that blare out across the city. What is it, 3 to 5 times a day? I can't remember how many times, for calls to prayer, because they're all Muslim. That right there is interesting in itself, but it gets crazy. So they decided to do this big DEI hire in Minneapolis, St. Paul, and they hired a Somalian to be a police officer. So he's working. And there's a girl, she was an Australian American who saw somebody getting assaulted in the alley behind her house. And her name was Justine Damon. So she calls the police for help. Well, when the police car pulls in, she's in her pajamas. She goes out to the police car. Y'all, this is where it got crazy. She got to the car. Y'all.
Okay, that's one there. Got another one. What is that one at? Why is this doing this? Okay, I believe this is a different one, you guys.
I got one for you. Okay, so back in the early 90s, George H.W. Bush decided to start settling some of the Somalians into Minnesota, of
Wait a
all
minute.
places. Had something to do with agriculture.
Is that the same one, you guys?
Their population has increased to like 100,000 people.
That's the same one.
All in the same.
Ah. I'll just go on to another one. Sorry about that one, you guys.
Well, I'll expand. We don't need to put it all on her, right? Her district, the 5th district of Minnesota, which belongs to Ilhan Omar, because of course they voted her in because very heavy Somalian population that came into that area, and actually they were able to immigrate legally.
Under 5.
I think that's changing as we speak pretty drastically. And some of them would really question the legality of it. There's a new report in the Daily Mail saying that Ilhan Omar actually married her brother, and that's how she was able to establish a way for him to be able to be educated in the United States. So she was married once. She had some kids with one guy. She goes out and she marries this other guy who allegedly is her brother, again, per the Daily Mail report, per the President of the United States. Apparently the FBI is doing an investigation, but this is unbelievable. So then she's still having kids with the first husband while married to this guy who went and I guess attended University of Nevada, probably on our dime, right? Because that's how things roll. And fraud is just okay. I mean, if you listen to Jazzy, fraud is fine. Fraud is just part of the system and you have to accept it. I don't think so. I don't think so. But Tim Walz didn't care. Ilhan Omar certainly didn't care. In fact, there were whistleblowers, according to this state representative in Minnesota, that went and told Tim Walz all about it. Listen.
The whistleblowers that I've spoken to are saying that the governor knew, and the governor and lieutenant governor and even Chris Schmitter, who was his chief of staff, came to them as staff and scolded them for pointing out fraud.
Minnesota Congresswoman Ilhan Omar told CNN this week she believes the fraud spiraled out of control because COVID programs were rolled out without sufficient guardrails. It's also worth noting the owner of the restaurant where Omar held her 2018 victory party is among those from the Somali community who have been convicted of profiting from the schemes.
Wow. Right? Yeah. Wow, indeed. Wowee, wowee. And it's why this whole thing with little Timmy, Tampon Tim, as some would like to call him, and the flag incidents, it all makes sense, right? You guys have seen this. I've seen this before, but just remember, because now it sort of crystallizes what's going on. You know, he really was indebted to the Somali community. He changed the flag in Minnesota. They decided to put one in that, if you ask me, kind of is on the Somalian motif because it's blue, similar color blue. Well, this one's 2 color blues, and it's got that star, just like they have in Somalia too. And look at him. He's so happy. Did you hear him yesterday? I played you that sound, but I don't need to bore you with it again. I think we're going to put it on the shorts feed though. He was talking about how masculine he is. That, you know, this masculinity thing, like the Republicans are afraid of him because he's so masculine. Who's a better poster child for fraud right now than...
Hey, Trisha.
Off. I've got everybody fatigued right now. So sick and tired of everybody right now. I'm being honest. I mean, that's why I disappear offline for a few days, because I am so sick and tired of every time I get online, it's the same damn thing over and over and over. Y'all do understand and remember that our whole mission and movement has not a damn thing to do with Candace Owens. I am so sick and tired of watching my own side turn into emotional reaction junkies. I mean, every daggum week, it's another vague story, another suspense drop, another just wait. And y'all are falling for it every single time, like the good little soldiers you are. And instead of calling it for what it is, you're allowing this to divide us. You're picking teams. You're getting in your feelings. You're turning on each other because you have forgotten who the hell the real enemy is. Because while you guys are too busy beefing on the internet, our kids are being targeted. Our values are being erased. Our faith is being mocked. And our country is being hollowed out from the inside. But yeah, sure. Let's sit here and fight each other over some podcast drama. Real productive. Here, let me remind you what we are supposed to be about. God first, family first, and America first. The mission was never about just one person with a microphone. The mission was about saving our country and saving the souls of the next generation. But right now we look distracted. We look fractured. We look like we're easy manipulated. And that should piss you off. So either we lock arms and we get back to the damn mission, or we stay divided and we lose everything that matters. It's time to grow up, lock in, and get back to what matters. God first, family first, and America first. Y'all might want to buckle up. But
Spot on that one, right, you guys? Another good one from her.
Judges kicked out, you're fired, and now on their way to the unemployment office. I absolutely love it. We'll see if the Attorney General decides that they are going to file charges. I certainly hope they do. But guys, this was a big one. So the great state, my mother's state of Louisiana came through. So this judge, let me tell you how terrible, and this was actually a national race, or we were watching it nationally in 2020. If you remember Judge Tiffany Foxworth Roberts, now she had claimed on all of her ads to be a veteran, working her way up in United States Army to captain, and how she was on the front lines of Desert Storms. And she knew how to fight because she fought her way through on the front lines of Desert Storms, and she was never afraid of a battle because she learned while she was on the front lines in Desert Storm. Well, it just so happens that the inconvenient truth for her, as people decided to dig in, is she never saw the front lines. Yes, she spent a little bit of time in the military, but in fact, she was never even deployed, allegedly. Allegedly, the most deployment that she ever actually did was to Walter Reed Hospital. So this woman gets up in front of her constituents and she asks for their vote, but she lies to them. But in addition to lying to them, I can't think of anything more grotesque than pretending to be a combat veteran and not being one. I don't know that that's forgiven, but that's a serious thing. Many people have given their lives, have lost their family members, whether it be, aunts, uncles, children, whether it be spouses, going and fighting abroad. and this woman decides to steal their valor just so she can get an election. That is disgusting to me. This is the same thing, if you remember, that Tim Walz tried to pull during the last election. But this is not about Tim Walz. This is about this judge. And fortunately, it was taken before the Louisiana Supreme Court, and they said, absolutely not, you're done. But she didn't just stop lying there. As they dug a little bit deeper, she also committed insurance fraud. So her vehicle had been broken into. And as her vehicle was broken into right in front of her house, she called the police. She claimed that there was $40,000 worth of jewelry and expensive materials inside the vehicle, which we don't know because obviously all that stuff hasn't been recovered, nor could it all be recovered. But she told her insurance company that the vehicle was down the street away from her home because she was in the middle of campaigning. So she gave she either gave false claims to her insurance company or gave false claims to her, to the police, which this was all caught on the body cam footage for the police. You know, I'm amazed at all the fighting the Democrats did to get body cams, and it seems like they're the ones that end up getting caught on body cams more often than anyone else. But the bottom line is this: I am so thankful that the people of Louisiana decided to hold her accountable, and I hope that this catches fire and spreads across the country. No one is above the law. Especially if you are a judge, you must be held to an even higher standard. And any of these politicians that are caught trying to steal valor, claiming to be something that they're not, kind of like Richard Blumenthal, if any of these people are caught doing this, they should be prosecuted. That should be a crime. Let me know what you guys think. You think I'm off my rocker? Comment below. Let me know what you guys.
Okay, Q.
Not only is he in the country illegally, but there have been ample opportunities over the last decade plus of him breaking the law in a country that he's in illegally, that if we were not a sanctuary state, he would have been sent back to Mexico by ICE. So this actually is something that was confirmed by Immigration and Customs Enforcement, which I was glad to see, that they were actually sending out an email with all the pertinent information about the suspect in this case, Raul Benitez Santana. Again, he's under arrest for vehicular homicide, accused of being high and drunk when he slammed into the back of 27-year-old Washington State Trooper Christopher Gadd, who was pulled over on the side of the road doing a DUI enforcement, father of a 2-year-old, had only been with WSP for 2 years. So this is all from ICE. It says we placed an immigration detainer with the Snohomish County Jail on March 4th for Benitez Santana, who's a citizen of Mexico, currently being held on charges related to vehicular homicide. Santana is a citizen of Mexico unlawfully present in the U.S. He entered the U.S. at an unknown date and time without admission or parole by an immigration officer and was first encountered by ERO Seattle on October 28, 2013 at the South Correctional Entity in Burien, following his arrest for failure to appear for driving while his license was suspended. And then they list some of the known encounters he has had with law enforcement since he's been here. I'll also tell you, by the way, there is some indication that his criminal history perhaps goes back to as early as 2006, but here's what we know of. May 3rd, 2013, Linwood Municipal Court, driving while license suspended or revoked. May 16th, 2013, Linwood Municipal Court, marijuana possession of 40 grams or less, sentenced to 90 days incarceration with 87 days suspended. October 6, 2014, SeaTac Municipal Court, driving while license suspended or revoked, sentenced to 90 days incarceration with 85 days suspended. May 24th, 2019, King County Superior Court, domestic violence assault, no sentencing information available. Now, if we were not a sanctuary state, how would this work? Well, if we weren't a sanctuary state, what would happen is particularly when it comes to a domestic violence assault, you would have the jail or the local agency that picked him up realize this is a non-citizen who is not in this country legally. They'd contact ICE. They would coordinate with ICE to make sure that, let's say he's spending a month in jail, that the day that he gets out, ICE is waiting for him. They take him into custody. They bring him to the federal detention facility where individuals who are scheduled for deportation are held. And then he's kicked out of the country because, one, he's here illegally, and two, he's here illegally breaking the law. That makes sense. This is the stupidity of the immigration debate. This is a country built on immigrants. This is a country where Lady Liberty says, give us your poor, your huddled masses yearning to be free. We should be proud of that as a country, that this is a place where people want to come. And if they want to go through the difficult process of coming to this country legally, if they want to go through the difficult process of seeking asylum here legally, the man who killed Washington State Trooper.
Okay, that time she had a good one. She had a good one there. Sometimes she's out of Washington State or Seattle. Okay, I got a couple parts. The Minnesota blower, whistleblower. Anybody see this one yet? Hey, Kim.
Spineless, weakest, emasculated Playboy dum-dum, Tim Walz, and Representative mentally Ilhan Omar. It just gets worse and worse. Wait till you hear this whistleblower who used to be a TSA agent. Wait till you hear what she says. She saw Somalis actually get through the security clearance checkpoint and onto airplanes in Minnesota on American soil. It is monumental. Also, I have a huge breakthrough. The Department of Homeland Security actually coming with receipts and saying mentally Ilhan Omar did, in fact, marry her brother. I can't wait to share that with you, as well as another Somali refugee giving a confession. But first, we have to, I got so much to share with you. But first, we have to share this live breaking news. We had a major tragedy in Syria where U.S. soldiers and one citizen were ambushed earlier today. And here is President Trump's response. Check this out. President Trump is on his way to the Army-Navy game happening later today. And he posted this: we mourn the loss of 3 great American patriots in Syria, 2 soldiers and 1 civilian interpreter. Likewise, we pray for the 300 soldiers who, it has just been confirmed, are doing well. This was an ISIS attack against the United States and Syria in a very dangerous part of Syria that is not fully controlled by them. The president of Syria, Ahmed al-Shara, is extremely angry and disturbed by this attack. There will be very serious retaliation. Thank you for this attention to this. Thank you for your attention to this matter. Donald J. Trump, President of the United States of America. Boy, I could see them doing something like this under weak leadership like Biden, but these guys are playing with fire because this America First cabinet and administration does not play around. Pete Hegseth, you've got Trump, you've got Marco Rubio. These guys are not playing around. So this, when Trump says there's going to be hell to pay, there's going to be hell to pay. I can't wait to get your comments on this. On just a quick molecule of levity, President Trump commented, he keeps getting this question, who do you want to win between Army and Navy? This was his response. Said, getting ready to land at Fort McHenry for my short drive to the Army-Navy game. Everyone is asking, who am I supporting, Army or Navy? My answer is, quote, you must be.
Okay, I got text. I played that other day. Sorry about that one, guys. I got some photos. I want to share. Well, actually, I got to read. I thank God my name was on the wake up list. That's for everybody that's been following. restriction on entry of foreign nationals to protect the United States from foreign terrorists and other national security and public safety threats. Okay, stupid TV again. Designation of certain Muslim Brotherhood chapter as foreign terrorist organization, especially designed global terrorists. I can't remember if I played this one. Okay. Five minutes.
Passed as a red flag. But in this political universe, apparently, it just appears to be a resume booster for Democrats. New York City Mayor-elect Zohran Mamdani, he has chosen to appoint a convicted armed robber to be on his City Hall transition team. Meet my son Lennon. He served 7 years in prison for armed robberies of New York City tax drivers. Prosecutors say he beat one of the victims with a glass bottle and held another at gunpoint while he and his accomplices stole cash and jewelry.
I think I did.
He was offered a 1-year plea
so.
deal. He rejected it, went to trial, and the jury convicted him anyway, resulting in a 7-year sentence. Court records even say the victims positively identified him, although he still denies the crimes. But on the bright side for Mamdani's supporters, maybe he hired him for tips on how he could rob the rich so he can afford the free handouts for his supporters.
We put together a team of more than 400 New Yorkers who are on 17 different committees. And these are New Yorkers who bring with them
I've been seen this one. I don't know if I played this one or
the
not.
policies and politics of the city, the places that they've succeeded, the places that they've failed. And we will take all of their experiences and their analysis into account as we build a city for each and every person.
Maybe next he can hire the mafia to oversee the city's gambling regulations. I mean, if you ask Jasmine Crockett about all this, she's just going to tell you, just because you commit a crime doesn't mean you're a criminal.
I understood what was kind of pushing them there. And so I do want people to know that just because someone has committed a crime, it doesn't make them a criminal.
Yeah.
That is completely different. Being a criminal is more so about your mindset. Committing a crime can come for a lot of different reasons.
Right. And if I rob a bank, I'm not a robber. I'm just financially spontaneous. And just so we are all living in reality, Merriam-Webster defines a criminal as, get ready, a person who is guilty of a crime. Case closed here on the Carrie Lane Show. And you know what else is a crime? Interfering with ICE. But Zohran, he's piling on even more dangerous rhetoric with this message he just put out.
We can all stand up to ICE if you know your rights. If you encounter ICE, these are the things that every New Yorker should know. Sometimes ICE will show you paperwork that looks like this and tell you that they have the right to arrest you. That is false. ICE is legally allowed to lie to you.
So again, when politicians send messages that encourage breaking our immigration laws, It emboldens people to act illegally. And that creates a dangerous, hostile work environment for not only ICE officers, but for the illegal immigrants themselves. Kristi Noem had a message of her own for the soon-to-be mayor. Watch this.
Okay, Lori.
Mayor, if he were mayor, could be violating
Lump
the
it in.
Constitution by giving advice on how to evade law enforcement and how to get away with breaking the law. It's really unbelievable in this country what we're seeing. Those ICE agents that you were referencing, the violent attacks that have increased against them to 1,200%, death threats against them are at 8,000%. These politicians, if they don't like the law, then go frickin' change it. Go change the law. That's your job.
But don't hold your breath on Democrats actually changing immigration law. I mean, if they pass sensible reforms, they'd have nothing left to complain about. They could have done this while Joe Biden was in office, but instead, they're perfectly content to create drama for political gain rather than solve problems for the American people. Case in point, Congresswoman Jasmine Crockett, who thinks Zohran Mamdani's antics prove she can win a Senate seat in deep red Texas.
Let me tell you something. Mamdani has not backed down whatsoever from his rhetoric against the president. In the Oval Office, he stood there and he said what he said about him being a fascist, yet he was able to win those voters. So Democrats that believe the only way that you can win is by being soft and sounding like a Republican, that is not true. What people are looking for are people that are tough and are fighters.
Well, her Texas Senate strategy, pure performance art, as we would expect from a Democrat. Step one, announce your campaign with a very weird, moody video, staring off into the distance while Donald Trump's roasts of her play in dramatic music. No constituents, no policy, no Texas imagery, just, he called me mean names, so I deserve to be a senator type energy.
Crockett. Oh, man. She's a very low IQ person.
Somebody said the other day, she's one of the leaders of the party. I said, you got to be kidding.
Now they're going to rely on Crockett. Crockett's going to bring them back.
Bizarre, right? So weird. I mean, why would anybody want to remind voters of why some think you failed? Her only strategy is obviously the sympathy card. Donald Trump was mean to me, so I deserve to fight for you. Even CNN's Jake Tapper was completely puzzled by this video.
Your official announcement is just a video of you and an image of you while insulting.
Okay.
Mr. Chairman, thank you so much for being a program. I don't like the Midwest getting this rep. We are not fraudsters in the Midwest. Where I'm from, you leave your jacket or leave your phone or leave your laptop in a restaurant. You can come back that night and it'll still be there.
Yeah, exactly. Ohio's not Minnesota. So look, when you're talking about potentially billions of dollars, I really appreciate the fact that Chairman Comer and the Oversight Committee and committee I happen to be a part of, that we're going to look into this and see what we can find. But this is starting, as we just saw, as you just played, this is starting to add up to wow, this is real. I think a couple of problems. One, when you throw this much money out there, the potential for fraud is real. I mean, this is what the Biden administration did, just kept sending money out with these COVID programs. And then two, it looks like, based on what we've seen so far, that the governor and his team, they really didn't want to dig into this. Were there political concerns, political reasons why they didn't want to, pay no attention to what you see behind the curtain, nothing going on there, that they took that attitude? At least that's what it appears. We'll find out as our investigation unfolds.
So what is Ilhan Omar's potential tie-up with all of this? She has great connections and what seems to be large structural connections to some of the fraud organizations, the Feed the Children group, some of these restaurants that were overcharging PPP. There's also an enormous amount of Medicaid fraud that has just been charged with the DOJ. What do you think will happen with Ilhan Omar? She's out right now saying that effectively Somalis are the victims here, and doing her best to lie on this issue.
I mean, we'll find out. I mean, that's why you do investigations, is to get to the truth. There's all kinds of things swirling out there right now, but we'll dig in there and we'll get to the truth, and then we'll see what the Justice Department does, if anything here. But I do think it was interesting that graph you put up. I think it was, I don't know if you tweeted or someone tweeted it, where it showed her net worth over the last, just looks like the last 6, 7, 8 years increased dramatically. I don't know how that happens. And if that's accurate, that is certainly a concern. I just don't, I don't know how accurate that is, but if it is accurate, I think that's something you got to look into as well.
Are you in favor of banning stock trading for members of Congress?
I don't trade stocks personally, so I've not weighed in on it. But if that vote, that bill comes up, I would support it.
Would you be in favor of Congress passing? I mean, because this has been like a major question that we've had about the relocation of the Somali populations into such tight bubbles in American cities to like change them inextricably and forever. And this happened in Ohio with Haitian populations. Obviously, this was a big problem leading up to the election. How does Congress like make rules to try and prevent that? What is sort of the approach right now with the Republicans in the House towards immigration reform?
Well, I think you got to look at it as far as the national policy immigration reform. You know, we had the bill last Congress, which reformed how our asylum law works, a better standard than just this defining credible fear in an appropriate way. We dealt with the Flores decision. We dealt with border security. Of course, this Congress, President Trump, and the work that we have done in the big, beautiful bill, the border is now secure. I mean, it largely was secure with President Trump in his first 3-4 months in office. And then we allocated resources so that there are the resources there to make sure the border stays secure. So we're Congress's national policy. I don't think you want to get into specific policy about where people can live, where they can settle. I think that is a local concern. Our job is to make sure our immigration laws are done right. We fixed some of the various visas we have. We have all these visas. I think there's some work that we can still do there. But right now, of course, the main thrust of last year's election, main issue was securing the border, and that has been done. I think that's a huge compliment to President Trump and his ability to do what he said he was going to do.
Yeah, I say this Republican majority, but it's getting knocked down one member at a time, and now there's rumors that there's going to be a bunch of other retirements that may put into threat the actual Republican majority in the House. What's actually going to happen? You're in a lot of these meetings. You're very close with leadership. Is this actually going to happen? I mean,
no.
Punch Bowl's out saying there's going to be 20 resignations.
No, that's not going to happen. Look, we've had a couple. We just had a big win last week. Matt Van Epps, great candidate. I actually supported early on in the primary, 10-way primary. We endorsed him early. Great guy, West Point grad, helicopter pilot, kind of guy you want coming into Congress and carrying out the agenda that the American people elected President Trump and us to do. So I think we'll be fine. Now, the midterms are always tough. Everyone knows this. When you're the party in power in the White House, midterms elections are typically difficult for that party. But I think we can prevail for a number of reasons. One is the big, beautiful bill will start to take effect. I mean, the tax cuts and the regulatory reform, all the good things we did in there, I think people are going to start feeling that the component in the tax code that encourages school choice, empowering moms and dads to send their kid to the best school, the school that they think is going to give them the best education. That is all good. I think second is just the idea that, remember, not all Democrats are crazy, but the left that controls their party is. They still have all these crazy positions on issues. You know, they want to defund the police. They want to have an open border. They want men to compete against women in sports, and on you can go. So I think you can still point out we're the party of common sense. They're the party of crazy. We have good candidates like Matt Van Epps. The big, beautiful bill kicks in. And then finally, I think what helps us in these upcoming midterms is President Trump, his energy, his ability to go to key districts, to turn out the vote, to do the telephone town halls, just like he did for Matt last week in that race in Tennessee. I think that's the thing that will allow us to sort of defy history and maintain the majority in the House of Representatives.
Yeah, as chairman, you obviously are somebody who has been driving for oversight and transparency for now the better part of decades. I'm not sure how successful DC has been of coughing up its secrets, but there is something that broke just last week that, well, it shocked, I guess, the world. The January 6th pipe bomber, something that we've talked about pretty extensively on this show, something that sort of broke a lot of people's ideas about what was potentially going on here. Seems very confusing. It seems like the information is getting muddled. The media's out saying he was a Trump supporter. His family's out saying he wasn't. What's going on here? What was your initial reaction here to Brian Cole?
Yeah, I think the main takeaway is just good old-fashioned police work, and that Kash Patel and Pam Bondi and this Justice Department actually did their job and found and told us who this individual is. You know, all during the Biden administration, I used to say it sort of half joking, but there was, you know, like in any good humor, there's some truth behind it. It was like, who planted the pipe bomb, who leaked the draft opinion on the Dobbs decision, and who put cocaine at the White House? And the Biden administration can never give us answers to any of those questions. Well, here we have the Trump administration, the Bondi and Patel Justice Department saying we found the guy who did this. Now, almost 5 years ago. So this, I think, is that to me is the key takeaway. We'll find out all the details about this individual, why he did this terrible thing. But I think the real takeaway is Kash Patel and his team were able to do good old fashioned work, the kind of work the FBI is supposed to do, and find this guy versus the kind of thing we saw with, Director Wray and the Garland Justice Department, which was the weaponization of the Justice Department against we the people.
How could they have missed this guy?
I don't know. We've been looking at this. We've been asking question after question, asking for information. But Wray, I mean, the one thing you can sort of take away from Chris Wray is he never really gave us all the information that we should have received, as evidenced by all the things we're now getting from Director Patel. I will look at the Catholic memorandum in the Richmond field office where they said pro-life Catholics are extremists in this memo. We asked for all the information, and Director Wray said, "Oh, you've got it all." Well, Kash Patel gets in there, Director Patel gets in there, and we get all kinds of additional information that contradicts things Wray told us, like that it was an isolated incident in this just one Richmond field office, when in fact it was in multiple field offices around the country. So that to me was, again, another key takeaway is just night and day compared to Wray and Garland versus what we now have in Director Patel and Attorney General Bondi.
You're bringing in Jack Smith for a deposition, right? Yeah. You're putting him under oath. What do you think you're going to learn?
Well, we've already deposed 3 of his deputies. One of them we actually referred for criminal indictment to the Justice Department because we felt he was totally obstructing our investigation. So we're going to bring Mr. Smith in. We've received a number of communications and documents that are important before you bring him in for a deposition. So we're looking forward to that. I think one of the key questions is, why did you wait until the Speaker of the House, Speaker McCarthy, became Speaker before you went back and subpoenaed his information? I mean, what was that all about? They got 2 months of his call records. Who he called, who called him, when the call took place, how long the call lasted. And if Speaker McCarthy initiated the call, they knew where he was located when he did so. Well, you can track and pattern an individual's life over a 2 month. They did it for me for 2.5 years, for goodness sake. So I think that's a line of question. Why all these members of Congress is you go get their call logs and text message data, not the actual message, but when those messages took place and who they were texting. Why did you go get that? And again, for the Speaker, they did it after he became Speaker. And this was supposed to be about January 6th, which was 3 years prior, for goodness sake. So I think there's a number of questions we have for Mr. Smith. We'll have him in a deposition now in 10 days, and we're looking forward to that.
Yeah. Well, Merry Christmas to Jack Smith. So let it snow. Chairman Jordan, you mentioned the cocaine at the White House. You've made some news on our program talking about this issue. Are we ever going to find anything about who left the cocaine at the White House? Is that case completely dead? Is the FBI have any evidence there? Does the Secret Service has any evidence? Apparently it was at an FBI lab in Quantico. The cocaine samples, are they gone?
I don't know. We've been as we talked about, we've been focused on Mr. Smith and this investigation and looking into his deputies and everyone else. We can double check on that, but it's been a while since we've inquired. I just remember saying that last Congress, like, why don't we know anything about now? And frankly, the Dobbs decision as well. Remember that led, because of that leak, we had an assassination attempt on one of our Supreme Court justices, Justice Kavanaugh, and the amount of security that the Supreme Court had to have in the aftermath of that. Who leaked that? That has never happened. It's not supposed to happen. So you would think we would know. You would think we would know who put cocaine at the White House too. I think you and I have an idea who it might have been, but maybe we'll never know. Who We'll see.
Still nothing. Just in closing here, there was a little bit of a brouhaha between Elise Stefanik and Mike Johnson about some legislation that would prevent spying from our intel agencies on presidential candidates.
Yeah.
Could you please explain what happened there? And, you know, 2 ships passing in the night. What was that about? What was the result? It seems like the result was satisfactory to Elise.
Yeah, no, this is good. This is good legislation. This is a good proposal that is going to stay in the bill. I supported it 100%. Particularly, you know, you think about all the weaponization we've uncovered and what we've been focused on stopping. And frankly, as I said, what happened to me and others when the Justice Department goes and gets your phone logs, for goodness sake. So I thought this was a good provision. Looks like it's going to stay in. I think there was some confusion with what Mr. Raskin wanted, which shouldn't frankly have carried much weight at all. This should stay in, and it looks like it's going to stay in. So I appreciate Lisa's work on this now for a long time. And of course, the speaker's willingness to make sure it stays in the National Defense Authorization legislation, which is a big bill that's slated to pass later this week.
We hope it does. We really like that legislation, and we're like just like with the Pfizer reform, like it gets very frustrating when Republicans can't just like deliver on these critical issues that we talk a lot about, but nothing.
Benny, that's a great. I'm glad you brought that up because that comes up for reauthorization, the FISA 702 program in April. So we're having a hearing on it in 2 days in one of our subcommittees. This is really important, and the key provision here is, if the government's going to search this database of information, this what I call this giant haystack of information, we believe they should go to a court, go to a separate equal branch of government and get a probable cause warrant to search your information. They're going to use Benny Johnson's name, phone number, or email address to search this database. They need to go get a warrant. And so we lost that legislation 212 to 212, tie vote in the House 2 years ago. This is important that we get this passed as part of the reauthorization. So we're already starting to work on that, but it fits in with what Elise was doing here. And this idea, you got to tell people if you're going to go investigate, it can't be some secret investigation you're doing into President Trump, like we saw with the whole dossier, and using that as the basis to go to the FISA court and get a warrant and all the crazy stuff they did. So it's all part of that. But this issue is going to be, I think, in the news as we move into the new year. And so we're starting a hearing, like I said, this Wednesday. So
FISA reform will finally pass, because I remember Mike Johnson being the key vote that voted actually against the reform, and it failed. So you're saying that this is going to hold this time?
I hope so, and that's what we're working on. We're already starting to work with the Intelligence Committee in the House to see if there's a way we can get this in the base bill that has to be reauthorized come April.
Okay, all right. Well, John Ratcliffe at the CIA, I'm sure will be speaking plenty with him about this. We hope that both of these things happen. This is why people elected Republicans, why people elect Jim Jordan from the great state of Ohio. Nearly 7 million subscribers here on X. You should be one of them. A subscriber to our show wanted us to ask you in closing, who is going to win the NCAA national championships this year? Chairman Jordan.
It looks like it'll be Penn State again, but Ohio State's tough. And I don't know if you happen to watch that match. I know you're a big Iowa wrestling fan, but Iowa State duel a week ago Sunday. So I guess 8 days ago. Great dual meet. Great. It was a big snowstorm, and they still brought in like 10,000 crazy fans there in Ames and watched at Hilton Coliseum and watched a great match. So I think, but there's a number of good teams. Nebraska's good. Of course, Penn State, Ohio State, Iowa State, Oklahoma State, and of course Iowa University is always good.
You gonna be there this year with the president?
We're planning on it. It's in Cleveland this year, so we're looking at that. Yeah, getting the boys and some of my buddies all together. We're thinking about going, and I don't know, maybe the president will want to go again. It was such a big hit last year in that heavyweight match.
That was a good interview with Jordan there. Now we got a new George video. I was telling Kay, I guess he had 3 of them out, but I got the short one. Oh, wait. Yeah, we'll get this one and come back and get the shorts.
Stevie Wonder can see that.
The identity reductionism, the identity politics that are being blasted in our faces right now is something that,
You know, I mean, it shows that 1, y'all don't remember, 2, y'all don't learn, and 3, y'all can't piece very simple information together.
Ladies and gentlemen, this might be my favorite ever video on the channel to record because it's everything I would want in a video. Jasmine Crockett is running for Senate in Texas, and the demographic you would imagine would support her no matter what, the black women, are the same people coming out saying, no, actually, we don't like Jasmine. We think her entire campaign is a fraud, and we don't trust her. Lest you forget, Jasmine Crockett's entire campaign strategy is axing black women for their votes. I'm asking y'all to vote for me. Ask. Come on. It's not axe. It's ask. There's a difference. Just like there's a difference between the smoke alarm detector sound and peace. Change the batteries and have some peace for once. Anyways, black voters, specifically black women, are rejecting Jasmine Crockett in real time. I've been seeing these kind of videos on TikTok constantly, and I'm going to show you multiple videos today of black women telling Jasmine Ratched to kick rocks.
Okay, can we please talk about the Texas Senate race right now? So I've been looking at both candidates. One of them is Wesley Hunt. And yes, he is a Republican, so he obviously supports Trump. But some of his policies consist of cutting fraud, cutting the American debt, securing the borders. And he also has this one that really caught my eye. It was aiding Houston's flood mitigation. Here in Houston, it floods pretty bad. Basically, anytime that it rains, like the roads are super flooded. This policy that he's putting in there, basically he wants to build these tunnels that way that the water actually drains out of the city instead of just being built up in the streets. And then I went over to Jasmine Crockett's, and yes, she does have a website, which I was surprised, but she had no policies. The only policy she had was she was anti-Trump. And I think that's literally crazy because what does that have to do with Texas? Like, what is that being anti-Trump? What is that doing to help Texas? So whenever y'all go to vote, you know, for your senator, think about the things that you want to be better in Texas. Don't just vote for someone because they're anti-Trump. And mind you, Jasmine isn't running against Donald Trump. She's running against Wesley Hunt. So again, Trump has nothing to do with that.
This is so refreshing to hear. She's realizing Democrats don't run on policies. They run on Trump bad, we good. Does this girl sound like a black conservative? No, actually, she sounds like someone who would normally vote for Jasmine Crockett. Here's another one for you, and I really like this one. Speaking about black women like their cars. I like that one. That's a brand new one. I like it. The engine, is it still running?
One thing I know about Republicans up on Capitol Hill is when they tell you they're going to do something, they've already done it. The plan has been finalized and they've moved on to the next objective. Okay, so by the time the public finds out about it, it's already too late. You can't do anything about it. Why do I say all of this? Because if you do a simple Google search in regards to why Jasmine Crockett is running for senator, she did not get the blessing from the Democratic Party. She was convinced by the Republican Party via the Republican Senatorial Convention to run for Senate. I didn't put 2 and 2 together until I seen the video of the Speaker of the House talking about, we are happy that she is running. We want her to run. And I'm like, why? And then I went on her website. This is not about the people of Texas. She don't give a fuck about the people of Texas. She's running for Senate because of her ego. Because her ego is bruised due to the fact that she is the first sitting congresswoman to lose her district. And while people in the comment section do not have the intellectual range or comprehension to know the difference between seat and district, she didn't lose her seat because by law, she's still a sitting member of Congress. It's just she don't have a district. But the reason why she lost her district, outside of the fact that it was gerrymandering, was all by design when she decided that she wanted to wage war on the Republican Party by herself. She has no allies. And while y'all sitting there attacking me, talking about that I have to, pledge fealty or loyalty to her all because she's a black woman, I don't subscribe to identity politics, never have and never will. You're hating, you're just jealous. How could I possibly be jealous of a congresswoman that has no districts? She has no allies.
She's cooking right now, ladies and gentlemen. I don't know about you, but it doesn't sound to me like Jasmine Crockett has any momentum.
She's running for Senate because of her ego. They're setting her up, and y'all don't even see it. Stevie Wonder can see that shit. Anybody who has a marketing background, anybody who has a copyright background, I would challenge you, go on her website and count how many times you see the word I. It's right there on her website. It's not about the people, it's about her ego. She is fueling and feeding her own ego. It's one thing to declare war or have a beef with one or two members of the Republican Party, but to declare war on the entire Republican Party at all levels of government, and you're alone and unafraid and by yourself and you have no allies to stand with you, child, sweet baby Jesus, you bit off more than what you can chew. And this is why I said in the original video, she did not read the room at all. You know, you do not hunt what you cannot kill.
This lady has way too much common sense to be a liberal. You're so close. You already rejected identity politics. Just come over. We're a big tent. We have all kinds of people in here. I have more for you, but I want to prepare you because you're not going to believe this. The theme with those two ladies is that Jasmine Crockett is running for her ego. She doesn't care about Texas at all. But there's an even bigger block of anti-Crockett black voters who are coming after her for her stance on Israel. Apparently, Crockett has a pro-Israel voting record. And so the leftist pro-Palestine people, who the Democrats propped up all these years, who Crockett probably propped up as well, are now saying we can't vote for Crockett because he is pro-Israel. Exhibit A.
Jasmine Crockett is pro-Israel for free. Pro-Israel for free. She doesn't get paid for it. She lobbies for the state of Israel for free. Every single day you get on this app and show us how you really feel about Palestinians, because Israel is a limit test.
I think she meant litmus test, not limit test.
Any politician willing to vote or in favor of Israel needs to go. Why is it only like, oh, identity politics? We don't care about Palestine anymore. Like, what the?
Throw it as hard as you want. Go on. Watching it zip away feels like it might just keep going, right? Nope, here it comes.
This has nothing to do with purity politics and everything to do with the fact that you guys don't have fucking principles. You guys don't give a fuck. It's really voting the blue no matter who. But you will learn very quick that that's not going to fucking happen.
She has a little mouth on her. We're going to have to do some censorship. Another one, baby.
Let's talk about Jasmine Crockett, shall we? Y'all have very short memories. The memories that you pull from the past seem to erase every 15 days. And there's an inability to connect past actions, particularly voting actions, to your current state of being and the future self that you want to be at. Some of the same creators who are telling you, hey, don't be a single issue voter, relax your morals when it comes to who you're voting on. No politician is perfect. A lot of these same lines we are hearing during the 2024 election, which didn't get you shit in the first place, are the same people not even 2 months ago who were complaining about how Chuck Schumer was a spineless, feckless individual who couldn't be trusted. And they were sitting here complaining about how and why we could have gotten to a place where the politicians would sell us down the river and all of this stuff. You saw real-time copium on the timeline of people trying to like make sense or create scenarios and conspiracy theories to show that actually the Democrats were playing the long game. They're never playing the long game. Newsflash. If you haven't picked up on the context clues, newsflash. And these are the same people who are coming on here talking about the Jasmine Crockett potentially being, taking a Senate seat for the state of Texas, voting for her, even if she supports this, even if she supports that. You're a single issue voter. You're not caring about people. This is anti-Black. All the identity reductionism, the identity politics that are being blasted in our faces right now is something that, it shows that 1, y'all don't remember, 2, y'all don't learn, and 3, y'all can't piece very simple information together. So vote whoever you want to vote in. If they're Black, support them. If that's your political strategy, do it. I don't really give a fuck. But when we're in another situation, inevitably, which we will be, where you want these people to stand up for you and not be selfish, please don't come on the timeline complaining, because the North remembers. We see you. And y'all act a fool and make yourselves look like fools every time. And all we're telling you is to just use the hindsight that you've been given. Hindsight is 20/20, but y'all insist on covering your eyes. So good luck with that.
So she's saying good luck to any of you that are voting for Jasmine Crockett, because she's going to screw you over.
To all the people that lack critical thinking skills that are saying that Jasmine Crockett is going to lose because y'all can't get over Israel, I want you to remember that she's running primaries right now. This is the primary. She's going up against another Democrat, James, who is calling for a ban on weapons to Israel. She's going to lose because she is against universal healthcare and is for sending money to a country that has universal healthcare while the people in this country are suffering. People's healthcare premiums are about to be on the rise in January. Everybody's about to experience such drastic increases in their premiums in 2026 that it's going to cause people not to be able to go to the hospital, and it's going to result in people's death. She is against universal health care. That is why she's going to lose. She's also going to lose because she is in the same state that made people sign declarations to Israel before Gaza saying that they're not going to boycott Israel in order to receive FEMA money after Hurricane Harvey. She's going to lose because this is anti-American and people are sick of it. She's not going to lose because we can't get over Gaza. She's going to lose because she doesn't stand for anything. And what makes this weird is she doesn't even accept money from AIPAC. So her stance on Israel is out of her own volition. She's doing this because she wants to, not because she is being paid like all the other politicians are. You should be wary of somebody who wants to support a country committing a genocide after 2 years and doesn't have a reason for it. She's going to lose, but guess what? She's going to lose against a Democrat who actually is for these things, and I'm okay with that. Y'all need to get over this. This is the primaries. If you don't understand what primaries are, look it up. And you should watch the video below and how she answers the line of questioning, especially surrounding Israel's invasion of Lebanon and Israel's brutal use of the pagers where they set it off on random citizens, resulting in a little girl's death. Look at how she's answering that. She thinks Israel has a right to invade all the countries around them, and Israel has a right to self-defense, even though nobody was attacking them. Y'all might not like to think it, but Gaza is a litmus test. It is a litmus test moving forward. Every politician has to figure out where they stand. We did not spend the last 2 years watching a genocide unfold in front of our eyes to now just back up and say, okay, they're never going to change. Let's just continue to elect them. That's not happening no more. I don't know if that's how you like to vote, but that's not how I like to vote. I want to make sure the politicians are actually doing their jobs because they have not been doing their jobs up until this point. There's a reason why every single Democrat, Republican are all taking money from AIPAC because we have not done anything. And now is the time to do it.
It's really interesting watching this dynamic play out on the left because it's a pretty similar dynamic on the right. The under 50-year-old right has completely soured on Israel. So is the left, but for completely different reasons. The left because they're folks humanitarians, and the right because they're leaning towards American non-interventionism. But what's different is that the establishment on the Democrat Party stoked up these people in the last few years, and now they're getting bit in the butt by them. This is a glorious thing that's happening to someone like Jasmine Crockett. Could not be happening to someone better. We don't want this video to be fully sexist. So here's a black man saying, no, Jasmine Crockett ain't it. She ain't it, dog.
In light of Jasmine Crockett running for Senate, I need you guys to understand something. We are about to witness liberals play the biggest game of identity politics they played since last year with Kamala. When you tell them that you're not fucking with Jasmine Crockett because she's pro-Israel, they're going to tell you that you hate her because she's a black woman. And I need you to do yourself a favor and just don't even pay attention to that bullshit. Because unlike you and I, they love identity politics. They think all skin folk is skin folk. Never mind the fact that the skin folk literally supports Israel. I don't care if she hasn't taken AIPAC money. The fact that she's pro-Israel is enough. Just be wary because they're going to tell you that you're anti-black, even though a lot of us are fucking black. There's your warning. That's all I got for you.
This is brutal for Jasmine Crockett, man. Her entire campaign strategy is turnout, and it doesn't look like these people are going to be turning out for her. Before I go, I have one more treat for you. This is Wesley Hunt obliterating Jasmine Crockett.
Baby, because these people, they are crazy because they always talk about how Christian they is. Yeah, I don't know how many of them on that side are getting divorced because they getting caught up sleeping with their co-workers, staffers.
And going after people and making ad hominem attacks that are basically unfounded and unsubstantiated because you think this is the Real Housewives or something like that is not serious. And what I really want people to understand is being United States Senator from the great state of Texas requires a certain level of understanding, requires a certain level of love for this country. It requires a fighter. And I want to talk about the things that are most germane to what Texans want. We want border security. We want low regulation. We want low taxes. And quite frankly, I really don't care about, I think what she said about what they is doing, and they really are. But I really want to talk about what things are most important to Texans. And it is not the personalized and ad hominem attacks about members. It is about what makes Texas, Texas, and why I believe we and Florida are the two greatest states in this great nation. Nice. And that kind of leadership is not going to work and it's not going to fly. Don't mess with Texas.
They are always talking about how Christian they is. They are always talking about how Christian they are. Ask, not axe. Ask, not axe. Asking, not axing. Thank you all very much for watching. God bless.
Okay, another good one with George. 4 minutes.
I've been taking a much needed break between working last week 50 hours, doing the channel till 2, 3 in the morning, trying to make priorities in my life first, and I'm getting ready to make a big trip coming up. So I've got a lot on my plate. I want to help and get involved in everything. I'm frustrated with almost every human trafficking person that I'm coming across. I find out that they are involved in bad people, or they mix with bad people, and it doesn't mean they're bad, but I don't want to go down that route. And I met with someone locally months back, and I just recently found out she was involved with Dream City. I can have nothing to do with her. I can't. My heart says no. I'm not doing it. God says no. And everything that these people are doing is about God, God, God. But they're not godly people. And I don't know how you describe that, because I think so many of us have been lied to from our churches, from the scriptures the pastors say. I think there's a lot of different meanings that we all have. And after being off of the channel, strictly, it was not on it at all. I think I checked it with my admins once. But I love this channel. I don't want to give it up. But I have to make sure I keep myself sane with what we know. And every table, pretty much I wait on. It's like being on the channel. And I am doing God's work. And I cannot explain the last few weeks. I had 3 generous people hand me money last night to help in what we're trying to, solve or whatever, or if I want to travel somewhere. But they also have a kind heart, and it's Christmas, and I get it. And I'm going to tell you something. I would say 40% of the customers are pretty awake to Christmas, maybe more. And we had it's just a music night last night that the whole town gets involved with. And anyway, thousands of people. I'm tired. But back at it again tonight. But what I want to say is that I'm going to make Christmas what I want it to be. And it's always been a fun holiday, but also stressful. And I'm not going to stress about it this year. If I want to put a tree up, I'm not going to pretend I know all the bad stuff about it. I'm going to remember all the times with my kids, my friends, my family, the lights, the ornaments we made, or they made me some, or the ones I bought, or what I believe in. I love cardinals, so they're all over my tree. Yes, I do have a tree up. Does it mean I'm satanic? I don't care what you guys want to say or judge me. It's what I love to come back after a long day of work and look at my tree and think about old memories of happiness, even when my grandma was around when I was a little girl, and peeking at her wrapping my gifts. It's about the little things for me. And I just have had to sit with myself a couple nights and just remember what each day is about, and each day is a present. Remember, we come on this earth with nothing. We leave with nothing. Gifts are things, and that's great to get, but I'd rather go help someone that's truly hurting. And there are a lot of us. So I don't know, but I will be back. Thank you for all the kind words. I am researching still. There's not as much because everyone around me is sick. I'm taking my fire cider every day, and I've taken some homemade vitamin C remedies from my friend. So I am staying sane, trying to sleep. Some nights I'm not sleeping, but I don't know what it is to keep me going, but I know God's got my back because there's so many positive stuff and so many people get.
Okay, that's Watch the Water. She does good. I got 2 more few videos. I don't think we played this one, have we?
He doesn't say much, but when he does, people like to listen. And Justice Thomas has been probably one of the more solid judges in my lifetime. And I really appreciate him. I appreciate what he's done. I've disagreed at times. I was livid that the court didn't step in 2020. But since then, I feel like he's been solid on so many issues. And I don't know that there's a more brilliant mind around today, legally speaking. And so when he actually speaks up about something, you can probably pretty much take it to the bank as to whether or not it's constitutional. So we look at what he had to say about Jack Smith, saying that a private citizen, because there is no law establishing how a private citizen can be made an inspector, special prosecutor. He clarified that Jack Smith did not have the legal ground to actually prosecute Donald Trump, which we've all knew that. If you've been following this channel for any amount of time and you've seen these videos, you know that I've said it, and I wasn't the original one. Most legal minds have said it, but now that I've heard it from Justice Thomas, yeah, I'm taking it to the bank. Now, the benefit is that they were just having this argument in Judge Eileen Cannon's court. Judge Eileen Cannon is about to make a decision on whether or not Jack Smith's appointment is legal at all. And I think after her getting a chance to hear and see Justice Thomas's remarks, I don't think that she can read that opinion and come to any other conclusion than that he's not supposed to be there, Jack Smith speaking. In addition to that, we still have the argument of the funding. We don't know how much this guy's being paid of our tax dollars. He's operating outside of congressional oversight. Outside of his actual appointment, the movement of Jack Smith has been highly questionable and highly illegal. Remember, the argument from Trump's attorneys was this is what a shadow government looks like. Justice Clarence Thomas is a little bit like my grandfather. He doesn't say much, but
Filter. Those are the same. Okay, we got part one. Watermelon.
Under oath. Where is it? Dan Bongino's voice cut through the House Judiciary Committee hearing room with the precision of a man who'd spent years in law enforcement and had been waiting for this exact moment. His question wasn't theoretical. It wasn't rhetorical. It was a demand for an answer that millions of Americans had been asking since 2017. Representative Adam Schiff sat at the witness table, his characteristic expression of grave concern already in place. He'd been called to testify at a hearing on FBI misconduct and political weaponization of federal agencies, an investigation launched by the new Republican majority. And sitting across from him, invited as an expert witness due to his background as both an NYPD officer and Secret Service agent, was Dan Bongino. This wasn't going to be another softball interview on a friendly cable news network where Schiff could run out the clock with vague references to classified information and ongoing investigations. This was under oath, on the record. And Bongino had receipts. Mr. Bongino, Schiff began his voice measured and practiced. The Mueller investigation detailed numerous contacts between the Trump campaign and Russian operatives. That's not what I asked you, Bongino interrupted, leaning forward. His tone wasn't hostile yet, but there was an edge that came from personal investment. This wasn't just political theater to him. He'd served in federal law enforcement. He knew these agencies from the inside, and he'd watched them get weaponized. I asked you about your claim, Bongino continued. On March 22nd, 2017, you went on Meet the Press with Chuck Todd. You said, and I'm quoting here, "I think there is more than circumstantial evidence now." And you said you had seen evidence of collusion. Not contacts, not meetings. Collusion. Criminal conspiracy between the Trump campaign and Russia. Bongino pulled out a tablet, pressed play. Schiff's own voice filled the hearing room. I think there is more than circumstantial evidence now that the Russians have compromised the President of the United States. The clip ended. Silence hung in the air. That was you correct? Bongino asked. The context, Schiff tried. I don't care about context right now. Bongino cut him off. I care about the claim. You said you had evidence. The Mueller report, 2 years, $40 million, 500 witnesses, 2,500 subpoenas, found no evidence of collusion. Zero. The Durham report confirmed the whole thing was built on a foundation of lies. So I'm asking you again, Congressman, where is your evidence? Schiff straightened in his chair. The Intelligence Committee received classified briefings, which have since been declassified, Bongino said, pulling out a thick folder. I've read them, Congressman. All of them. Every single classified briefing your committee received. There's nothing in there. No evidence of collusion. So either you lied about having evidence, or you're sitting on evidence that somehow eluded Robert Mueller's entire team of prosecutors. Which is it? The Republican members of the committee were leaning forward now, sensing blood in the water. The Democratic members looked uncomfortable, shuffling papers, avoiding eye contact. They knew what was coming. Everyone who'd been paying attention knew what was coming. The investigation was warranted based on the information available at the time, Schiff began. Stop, Bongino said, holding up his hand. That's a different claim. Now you're defending the investigation. I'm asking about your claim to have evidence. You went on television, not once but dozens of times over 2 years, and told the American people that you had seen evidence of collusion. CNN, MSNBC, ABC, CBS, you were everywhere. I've seen evidence, you said. More than circumstantial, you said. Bongino pulled out a printed spreadsheet. I have here a list of 43 separate television appearances. Collusion. I'm asking you.
Okay, that was part one.
Now, after Mueller found nothing, after Durham exposed the whole thing as a political hit job, you want to talk about whether the investigation was warranted. He leaned back, spreading his hands. Congressman, I'm a simple guy. I was a cop in New York. I protected presidents for the Secret Service. I know how investigations work. And here's what I know when you tell the American people you have evidence of the President of the United States being a Russian asset. You better actually have that evidence. So I'm going to ask you one more time, and I'd like a direct answer. Where is the evidence you claim to have seen? Schiff's jaw tightened. I stand by my statements at the time, based on the information. So you're saying the evidence existed then, but doesn't exist now, Bongino pressed. Or you're saying you never actually had evidence, but claimed you did anyway. Because those are the only two options here, Congressman. Either you had evidence and it mysteriously disappeared, or you lied. Which is it? The hearing room erupted in murmurs. Several reporters in the back were typing frantically. This was already going viral, and they both knew it. I acted in good faith, based on intelligence assessments. Schiff tried again. Good faith. Bongino's voice rose slightly, the first crack in his controlled demeanor. Congressman, do you know what happened because of these claims? I do. I know because I still talk to people in these agencies. Careers were destroyed. Reputations were ruined. General Flynn, a decorated military veteran, was bankrupted and prosecuted for a process crime. Carter Page, an American citizen who actually helped the CIA, was surveilled for years based on lies. Lives were torn apart. He paused, visibly collecting himself. And you went on TV night after night, telling America you had evidence. You gave them hope that their suspicions were justified. You made them believe their president was a traitor. And it was all based on nothing. Worse than nothing. It was based on lies that you either knew were lies or were too incompetent to recognize as lies. I resent the accusation, Schiff began. I don't care what you resent, Bongino said flatly. I care about the truth. And the truth is that you spent 2 years telling America you had evidence you didn't have. The truth is that you never apologized, never retracted, never showed even a hint of remorse for the damage you caused. And now you're sitting here under oath and you still won't give a straight answer. The Republican chairman leaned into his microphone. The witness will answer the question. Do you have evidence of Trump-Russia collusion that was not included in the Mueller report? Schiff was trapped. Every eye in the room was on him. The cameras were rolling. He couldn't invoke classified information. That had been declassified. He couldn't claim ongoing investigation. It was over. He had nowhere to hide. The Mueller report detailed he tried once more. The Mueller report, Bongino interrupted, found no evidence of collusion. Page 2, Volume 1. The investigation did not establish that members of the Trump campaign conspired or coordinated with the Russian government. That's Mueller's conclusion. Not mine. Not some partisans. Robert Mueller himself. Bongino pulled out another document. But, you know what? Let's talk about how this whole thing started. Let's talk about the foundation of your evidence. Let's talk about the Steele dossier. He saw Schiff's expression change, just slightly, but it was there. Fear. This was the part Schiff definitely didn't want to discuss. The Steele dossier, Bongino continued, was opposition research paid for by the Clinton campaign and the DNC through Fusion GPS. That's not conspiracy theory. That's established fact. Christopher Steele, a former British intelligence officer, was hired to dig up dirt on Trump. And he produced a dossier full of salacious, unverified allegations where you made claims.
Okay, I got a part 3 there. I'm going to show this something here. Dang it. Breaking news. President Trump says he has truckloads of evidence that will soon be released proving the 2020 election was rigged. What do you guys think of that? Part 3.
Key thing, Congressman, you knew it was opposition research. The FBI knew it was opposition research. It was disclosed to the FBI in the summer of 2016. And yet, when you went on television to talk about evidence of collusion, you never mentioned that your evidence came from a document paid for by Trump's political opponent. Why not? The Steele dossier was one piece of many, Schiff began. It was the primary piece, Bongino corrected. The FBI used it to get FISA warrants to spy on Carter Page. And through Page, they could surveil the entire Trump campaign under the two-hop rule. The dossier was the foundation of the entire investigation. And you knew it was Clinton opposition research, and you never told the American people. He pulled out more documents. In fact, let's talk about what else you knew. In January 2017, the FBI interviewed Igor Danchenko, the primary subsource for the Steele dossier. You know what Danchenko told them? That the claims in the dossier were basically bar talk, rumors, speculation, gossip. Nothing verified, nothing confirmed. The FBI learned this in January 2017. Bongino looked up at Schiff. You made your more than circumstantial evidence claim in March 2017. 2 months after the FBI learned the dossier was garbage. As chairman of the Intelligence Committee, you had access to that information. So either you knew the dossier was nonsense and cited it anyway, or you failed in your oversight duties. Which is it? Schiff's face had gone from pale to flushed. The dossier was never the sole basis. Then what was the basis? Bongino demanded. Give me one piece of actual evidence, not contacts, not meetings, but actual evidence of criminal conspiracy. One piece. That's all I'm asking for. Silence. You can't, can you? Bongino said quietly. Because there never was any evidence. It was always smoke and mirrors. It was always political. He opened another folder. Let's talk about the FISA warrants. The FBI applied for warrants to surveil Carter Page 4 times. Each time they had to swear to the FISA court that the information was verified and accurate. Each time they cited the Steele dossier as a key piece of evidence. And each time they failed to mention that it was paid for by Clinton or that the subsource had disavowed it. Bongino pulled out the Inspector General's report. The IG found 17 significant errors and omissions in those FISA applications. 17. These weren't typos, Congressman. These were deliberate omissions of exculpatory evidence. The FBI lawyer Kevin Kleinsmith literally altered an email to hide the fact that Carter Page had worked with the CIA, not for the Russians. He looked directly at Schiff. And when Devin Nunes tried to expose this in February 2018 with his memo, what did you do? You attacked him. You called his memo misleading and cherry-picked. You released your own memo defending the FBI. You went on every network that would have you and said Nunes was lying. Bongino slapped the table lightly for emphasis. But Nunes was right. The IG report proved it. The Durham report proved it. Everything Nunes said in that memo was accurate. The FBI abused the FISA process. They lied to the court. They withheld exculpatory evidence. And you defended them. You attacked the one person trying to expose the truth. He paused, letting that sink in. Do you owe Devin Nunes an apology, Congressman? Schiff's silence was answer enough. I'll take that as a no, Bongino said, because apologizing would require admitting you were wrong. And you've never admitted that, have you? Not about Russia, not about the dossier, not about the FISA abuse. Bongino leaned forward.
Okay, that was 3 parts on Bon Jovi and Watermelon. So, okay, the last one I'm going to play, I decided George just came out with a latest bombshell with what Trump just landed out. I'm going to finish off with that, 35 minutes.
It was pretty late, but we're back with some really significant news. President Trump, wow, this is impressive. I'll be honest with you. One of the things I have felt has been disappointing from the second Trump term so far has been the lack of update, progress on the 2020 election. Now, let me put it very simply. Trump would not be the 47th president if he just remained the 45th president. Joe Biden should have never occupied the White House with the auto pen for 4 years. But in 2020, something unprecedented happened. In March of 2020, we started hearing about this virus from China, from Wuhan, that was taking the world by storm. They closed down everything. I was in high school. We couldn't go to class. I was in 11th grade. Everything just sucked. The entire world closed down. But there was an election coming up, and it wasn't going to get postponed. It was going to go on as usual. But as though it was a complete and perfect plan from them, when I say them, I mean the crooks in power, everything about the election changed. For the first time in history, mail-in ballots were used almost universally, at like a 50% rate. People were discouraged from voting at the voting booth for the first time ever. Democrats always said, oh, it's about the voting booth, when you go to the voting booth. And then suddenly people were voting from their homes. And what was worse is that people weren't just merely requesting ballots. They were getting solicited. People were receiving ballots automatically. in states like Washington, Colorado, California. Everybody got one. And what made it even more worse than that was that you had these unsupervised ballot drop boxes everywhere in all the battleground states, funded by private money, Mark Zuckerberg, with hundreds of millions of dollars. So that brings us to this point. 2020 has not been addressed. Justice has not come about. We're still waiting for arrest. Pam Bondi, where are you? Who's in handcuffs? Okay? I'd like to see some of the fraudsters go to jail. It's the sole reason why I was banned from YouTube for 4 years, because I was talking about the 2020 election in 2021. And a lot of people were watching, not just me, a group of us, network. It was like a network of election integrity people. And we believed that something drastically went wrong with the 2020 election. From the censorship of the Hunter Biden story to the mail-in ballots to the machines to everything that had anything to do with that election, we felt needed thorough investigation, needed an audit. And to this day, we have not had an independent audit of a vast election system. We've had snippets, pieces, bits and pieces here and there, but nothing comprehensive, nothing total. And that's the problem. But today, not today, but I guess whenever this was at the Christmas reception for lawmakers, I don't know if this was at the White House. I think it was. President Trump made a very powerful announcement. Let's listen in.
First time that's happened in many years. We are doing great, and prices are coming down. And the Democrats use this word called affordability. They look at the camera and they say, what are you going to do for the affordability? They keep saying affordability. Well, they're the ones that caused the problem. Okay? They're the ones that caused the problem. That's all they're good at cheating in elections, very good at cheating. They're professionals at cheating because we won in 2016 by a lot. The election was rigged in 2020. We have all the ammunition, all the stuff, and you'll see it come out. It's coming out in truckloads. But then we won again in 2024 with an election that we call too big to rig. And we were leading big in the polls, but I said, go out and vote. You got to go out and vote. Make it too big to rig. And that's exactly, they tried to rig it, but they couldn't do it. It was too big to rig, too many votes. And we won every swing state. We won by millions of votes. We won the popular vote. We won the college, electoral college. We won something else by a lot. We won something else that was amazing, and that's called districts. So the country is divided up into thousands of districts. We won 2,750 to 525. That's why when you look at a map of the election, the entire map is red other than two little blue stripes along the outer edge. One is California, one's New York. And California's election, New York also, but California more than any other place is so rigged. It's such a rigged election. You know, we won the Hispanic vote. So a lot of people say Republican wouldn't win California, but I won the Hispanic vote. I won in Miami. Think of that. In Miami, I won the Hispanic vote. Along the Texas border, I won every single city or town touching the Texas border, and they're 85 to 90% Hispanic. We won the Hispanic vote. If the vote in California was legitimate, which it's not, they have 38 million ballots. Everything is mail-in voting. They mail out 38 million ballots, and they come in. Where the hell do they go, and where do they come from? It's a rigged election in California because we would win California by a lot. And again, they feel they have the advantage with Hispanic. They don't, because I won Hispanic vote. So we did something that was amazing. We made a comeback, and we got the most Republican votes in the history of elections. We won Texas by more votes than anybody's ever gotten to this. Well, I did number 1, number 2, and 3. All 3 I did in Texas and Alabama and many other states. We won. In many states, we have the all-time record for votes. And it was just a great election. This was a great election. And you had long since recovered from the Viper bite, so you acknowledge that this was a great, because I said, I want that guy as my doctor. And it's true. And your partner is so great. He's such a great guy. So I just want to say this was an amazing period of time. Our country has been turned around much faster than I thought. If you
So what is he saying? That they have truckloads of evidence. I don't know if you guys caught that. That will be released. Okay?
I just showed that.
Let's play that portion again just so you can hear it.
won in 2016 by a lot. The election was rigged in 2020. We have all the ammunition, all the stuff, and you'll see it come out. It's coming out in truckloads.
So they have significant evidence, according to Trump, of what happened in 2020. Ammunition, that's what he's calling it. That's crazy. That's
What do you guys
actually
think of this
huge.
one?
Earlier this year,
Why
Tulsi
not-
Gabbard, the director
Oh,
of
this
National
one.
Intelligence, actually said they
Just
had
came out.
evidence that machines could
You just
connect to
finished
the
it.
internet, which, was a shock to absolutely nobody. But that's just, one of the things the administration has done on election integrity, one of the things they have publicly confirmed, but nothing else, So we've been waiting for months, just wondering, hey, when are we going to secure elections in this country? When are we going to upend the system that Democrats have built to pull off these shenanigans in the swing states? So whatever they're coming out with is going to be big, obviously, right? And I think Trump meant, counties, not districts, when he was mentioning winning 2,700 districts. It's counties, but, that's, a minute point. But that's a massive reveal there from the president. What I think is going to probably get released is all the correspondence between state and federal governments, all the evidence that no one has dared to look at, because, a lot of it has been deleted. There's a 22-month data retention period, but I imagine they preserved a lot of files. They'll have, a lot of logs. A lot of these things have been under litigation holds. In Fulton County, we still have a case with Garland Favorito and voter GA attempting to inspect the 150 something odd mail-in ballots that were counted in that county. That's a lot. I mean, that would change the outcome in Georgia. And what they allege is that the ballots didn't have folds. So if they inspect the ballots and the ballots don't have fold, that means they could have never been put in envelopes and mailed out to a real person. And if they have votes on them, that would mean they were filled out at the tabulation center by election workers. We saw all these things on camera. Ruby Freeman, Shay Moss, these people were caught pulling off these shenanigans on camera, right? So it wasn't like a lie, and then they got vindicated by courts in DC. This is how much the Democrats knew they would lose that case in a fair court against Rudy Giuliani. They brought it in DC and not in Georgia, where the alleged crime would have happened. So they forced Rudy Giuliani to pay all this money, make all these stupid apologies, because we had a crooked judicial system and crooked federal prosecutors for 4 years. So now that whole thing switches on its head. Honestly, I don't know if presidents can do this, but can they go back and terminate citizen awards, the presidential award for good citizenry? Can Trump go back and remove that from Shay Moss and the two ladies that were, the mom and daughter duo in Fulton County that were literally scanning the same vote like 5 times, 10 times? We saw it on video. We saw trucks coming in the middle of the night. We saw the curve where Republicans were doing well and then Democrats just poof, like Superman taking off from the ground, just poof up, right? And then they took over. We saw batches come in at 2 a.m., 3 a.m., 2 days later, coming in at 99% Democrat, which is statistically impossible. What? You talk to 100 people in a swing state and 99 of them who voted by absentee just happened to vote Democrat? Really? 100 people in that precinct voted for, or 99, they gave us one, ladies and gentlemen, they gave us one. And I want everyone to understand this about the 2020 election, right? Because since we had no official investigation, no independent verification, no real audits that we could trust with compelling information and great transparency, since we had none of that, we had to kind of synthesize. We had to come up with theories, literally conspiracy theories, right? Conspiracy theory is something that we should do, by the way. We should always think we should think about if there's a grand conspiracy. And the 2020 election was a conspiracy, and we have theories about it. But until those theories are verified, they're going to be theories. But here's what happened. Because there was no audit, we came up with, okay, bamboo fibers. Oh, they use like China bamboos, and then that did that. And then the machine did that with the bamboo fibers, and that's the problem. So we were pushing for an inspection of the paper material. That's, that was crazy, but that's where we were in 2021 and 2022. We were confused. We had no answers, and we wanted answers, but instead we got censored for asking the questions.
22 minutes,
so
guys.
We did that. Then we went to, it was like servers in Serbia, which, again, true, Dominion had offices in Serbia, and they outsourced American election work, had all that info stored on Serbian servers. That was revealed by a sheriff in Michigan. So this isn't like a joke, but it legitimately happened that way. So we came up with these different things. Okay, it was Smartmatic working with the software engineers at Dominion, and Smartmatic is from Venezuela. And so we thought there was that connection. And to be honest, all of it could be true. So what I'm saying is, it could be true. We need further confirmation. Everything we said except the bamboo fibers. That was BS. Everything else, the machines, the ballots, the mail-in vote, the drop boxes, everything else we saw at nursing homes in Wisconsin, a lot of the, Midwestern, really the Middle East, because it's technically, that's a topic for another day. In the Middle East with the Somalis. It's the Middle East, man. You have Chirac, you have Iraq, you have little Baghdad in, I don't know, Michigan, right? But, so in the Midwest, you had a huge problem, but it's really what they were pulling, where nursing homes had like 110% voter turnout. Now, we know nursing homes is the place people go before they die. Like, they get taken care of for the last 10 years, 5 years, 3 years of their life, and then they go on to be with Jesus. But we don't know them as like active participants in the voting system. And what's crazy is a lot of the patients have dementia, and they were all voting by mail and requesting mail-in ballots. So how would they have gotten access to the technology to do that unless you had Democrat operatives literally going in and using these people? You had family members of some of these elderly people, especially in Wisconsin, saying, my mother doesn't even remember her own kid's name, and she voted for Joe Biden, like, somehow, right? She would not have known how to get an absentee ballot, yet she has one. So we saw these problems, these shenanigans being pulled. We had parking lots voting. Right? You go on the voter rolls and it shows this person voted in 2020. You go to look up their address and it's a parking lot. You had parking lots diluting parking lots. Oh gosh. Couldn't just make up a fake house. They had apartment complexes where over 150% of the 100% people, you have 100 people that live at the apartment complex and then like 120 of them voted, which is crazy. Like, just think about this. In order for that to be true, not only do you have to live in Lulu-Lala land, you have to have every person of that 120 out of the 100 be of voting age, also have registered to vote. Like, think about how bizarre that is on so many levels. It's like an onion. You peel one part and then there's another layer. It just keeps going. It's a rabbit hole. You just keep digging in. That's 2020 for you. It's like we saw the tip of the iceberg, but there's this much bigger, gigantic piece that connects everything, right? 2020 wasn't just machines. It was mail-in voting. It was ballot drop boxes funded by Mark Zuckerberg in Wisconsin, in Georgia, in Arizona, in Nevada. Like, it was that. it was universal mail-in voting. You know, I rent this house. And a few years ago, in 2022, I didn't get it in 2024, but this is how crazy this whole universal mail-in voting system is. The owner of the house moved a few years ago to California. So they live in California, change of address and everything. But guess what? In the 2022 midterms, in the primary election, I received 2 mail-in ballots for the 2 people that the previous owners who now live in California received those mail-in ballots. I presume they are registered to vote in California. That was for the primary election. And then I thought, okay, maybe that's just a mistake. The general is going to be different. They're not going to send these out. But they sent me mail-in ballots for the general as well. And this is when I realized it was sick. In the interim, between that period, there was an election for a local race. And I didn't get mail-in ballots for that. For those 2 people who no longer live here. Now, they since stopped doing that after 2022, maybe because I tweeted about it and Elon Musk, I think, reacted to it.
I'll play 2 different ones, you guys. That was too long. Sorry.
We went from just a few, seems like hours ago, Democrats insisting and shrieking at the top of their lungs that there's no such thing as voter fraud. There certainly is no such thing as criminal aliens voting in our election, to you saying from your position at the DOJ, having cross-referenced all of the records, that perhaps thousands, maybe tens of thousands, who knows the set number, but like that we may have that many illegals voting and rigging our elections?
Well, they're on the voter rolls. So then the next question is, and that could happen through shoddy DMV paperwork. Of course, I don't think anyone who's here illegally should have a driver's license. I think that's ridiculous in and of itself, but that's how folks get on there. And there may also be some nefarious behavior by these NGOs that try to get people onto the voter rolls. So the next question is, did they vote? And so we will track that down. Those records are available. But again, when you see red states and blue states trying to hide this information from the Department of Justice, it really raises red flags. And now I really wonder how rampant this problem is even in red states. And so we're going to find out, Benny.
Here's a red state right here, the state of Michigan. President Trump won it twice. President Trump won this state in spite of the fact that we know as a matter of fact from the DOJ that communist Chinese nationals voted in the election. Their votes counted. Can't imagine who they voted for, Harmeet. And they said, well, too bad. Then the Chinese national, even though they were on a detainer, was able to flee back to China. Able to use a fake passport and get back to China and never to be seen again and never be held accountable for their fake votes. And so how rampant was this? I mean, listen, if some student from the Chinese Communist Party was able to do it so easily here in the state, the swing state, critical swing state of Michigan that was won by like a whisker, really begs the question, how big is this problem? Is this actually something that is coordinated throughout major swing states? And as we have tracked many times, Harmeet, these swing states are often major NGO operational arenas for bringing in criminal aliens.
Right.
Is this the reason?
Georgia is one of the states that this week told me to go pound sand and is not going to give me their voter data. So we will be suing Georgia to get that information. And, so swing states are actually the big problem. But The narrative from the left has been, first, there is no such fraud. It's impossible for people to get on the rolls if they're here illegally. And so what if some dead people are on there? Someone would have to commit fraud to vote those. Well, that does happen, of course, as we both know. But secondly, now they've moved the goalpost to, well, there's only a little bit of fraud, or it doesn't really matter, or what's the big deal? It is a big deal if any single vote dilutes the vote of an American citizen. When you and I go to the polls, an election can be won or lost by a single vote, and we are all entitled to know that our votes are being counted only and equally with only American citizens. And we will do that at this DOJ, provided courts don't stand in the way. I'm prepared to take this all the way to the United States Supreme Court if necessary.
Yeah, that's a great question. Like, what about mandatory voter ID? And I constantly tell Republican senators and members of Congress that are on my show, like, you can't find a issue that is more beloved by the majority of the American people. You're talking about a 90-10 issue here based on every single poll. Here's just one of them. It says mandatory voter ID for the country. I mean, this is just obvious. In your home state, your beloved state of California, where you go whale watch off those beautiful cliffs, there is a campaign right now in order to get voter ID on the ballot. What are you finding in California? Do you think that's going to pass? Do you think that there's, like, what would be it would have to be an act of Congress, right, in order to get mandatory voter ID throughout the country?
Well, so let's break that down. First of all, definitely a state can pass voter ID. There have been attempts in the past, and some are still ongoing, to try to block those measures. But increasingly, like just earlier this year, the United States Department of Justice, my office, supported Wyoming's voter ID law, which then the court agreed was legal. So states are being able to do this on their own. But I have testified in Congress and spoken privately to many members of Congress about these issues. And I think that Congress could pass a law that tied the federal funding support for federal elections to certain minimum standards of election integrity, including but not limited to clean voter rolls, voter ID, and some other measures that I won't, the technical measures. Now, like we've had in the past,
See you tomorrow night.
Sort of speed laws and seatbelt laws, where the federal government didn't mandate it, but they said, we're not going to give you federal funding to maintain your highways if you don't do this. And then every state kind of whipped into line and did it. And so I think that is something that could be done, but they're not doing it. And I mean, I won't shame the Republicans who told me, oh, Harmeet, we can't do it for X, Y, and Z reason, but you can surmise there's some of the same ones who pound on the table and shout at the cameras and hog the most attention on networks. They're the same ones who privately won't do the needful. And so it is irritating, but I'm going to do the needful in the DOJ. We're going to use the Attorney General's power to at least clean up the voter rolls, and then we'll go from there.
What have you been finding with California? Obviously, this is one of the states that will not willingly give you its voter roll data.
Yeah, we have 2 lawsuits pending there. One is against Orange County, and one is against the whole state. And we're just back and forth in motions. We argued the case. I think one of my colleagues argued the case earlier this week, Monday maybe, about their motion to dismiss. And I think we're using for the first time federal Civil Rights Act provision that gives the Attorney General the right to demand this data. She doesn't have to give a reason. And these states are all making hand-wringing excuses. Oh, the federal government can't keep data secure, and there's a privacy issue. How can the Social Security numbers, last four of the social, be private from the federal government that issues them? I think everyone is a full-blown panic over here about what we're going to find. And so I think eventually we're going to win these cases, all of them, and people are going to be scandalized that for years and decades, many, many, many people have voted in our elections who had no right to, and violated the civil rights of you, me, and every other citizen who follows the law.
That's exactly right. Okay. It's a fascinating subject matter, something that obviously everybody in our audience cares so much about. We covered very briefly in the open here that Republicans may be able to get a few extra seats in redistricting if the civil rights, is it Article 2 subsection that gets struck down potentially at the Supreme Court for redistricting and or gerrymandering based on Americans' skin color, which is crazy that we're still doing that. We are in a lot of southern states. Can you please update us on where that is pending?
Sure. Well, let me break that down for you. First of all, there is a partisan redistricting that's happening right now in several states. As you know, Texas's new map just got upheld by the court. And my colleagues are arguing the California case next week. I'm recused from that because my old law firm filed the original lawsuit. And then it's happening in Missouri, just one. A judge just rejected an attempt to invalidate their new maps. And so this is unusual in the United States because normally the redistricting occurs just by custom after the census. But first of all, the census doesn't have to be only every 10 years. It has to be a minimum of every 10 years. And redistricting can be whenever a state decides to do it. And so I think you're going to see this happening on both sides, and hopefully a net gain or a net loss for whoever. I mean, I'm going to stay out of the politics of that.
Okay, I'm going to finish off with the late Q video that just came out, 5 minutes in the last one.
On a huge push, try to stay afloat and to try to stay ahead of the impending doom that is coming her way. The problem is when you are a criminal, when you have done illegal activities, it's probably smart to lay low. It's probably smart not to try to raise all types of sand. I mean, when you know that you live in a glass house, why would you throw stones? So Ilhan Omar has got the walls caving in and closing in on her. Now, the problem is that she knows that Donald Trump has made it very, very clear he plans to take a long, hard look into her immigration. And I believe when that is done, there's going to be some really, really uncomfortable conversations to be had. I'm going to get into that real quick, but the reason that she has been out there on this media campaign, on this blitz, is twice in the last week, her son has been approached by ICE and by Border Patrol. Now, she's out here saying, well, he's being harassed, he's being racially profiled, and blah, blah, blah. Well, he got pulled over. What the media is not telling you is he got pulled over after leaving Target in Minneapolis. He got there. They asked for proof of his citizenship. He showed them his passport, and then he was immediately sent on his way. No harm, no foul. That doesn't sound like targeting to me. But then in addition to that, the FBI, the ICE agents and Border Patrol showed up at his mosque. Now, that wasn't necessarily them targeting him, but it was targeting extremists that are known to be hanging out in certain mosques around the city of Minneapolis. Now, remember, Minneapolis has turned into Little Mogadishu. I mean, having lived in that area for a very long time, I mean, it's definitely doesn't feel like you're still in America when you are there. But she's trying to claim that her son is being racially profiled. It's nothing of the sort. The real question is, who is your son hanging around, and why does he continue to hang around them? And why is it that he's in these places to be caught up in these situations over and over again? She says she's had to have conversations with her son about how worried she is. It's Ilhan Omar's son. Stop it. This kid has been raised in the lap of luxury. She's worth millions and millions of dollars. If he chooses to still hang around riffraff, that's more of a concern about her parenting than it is about ICE being there, actually getting criminals and illegal aliens off of the street. It's already been proven. Why is the mainstream media not saying, hey, he was pulled over, They looked at his paperwork, sent him on his way. No big deal. The problem is Ilhan Omar understands that she has brought this on her own family. This is a conversation that's been had in Minnesota for a very long time. The idea that in order to get her brother's citizenship in the United States, that allegedly, but I've seen the proof, it doesn't seem like it's very alleged anymore, but the proof seems to stand, okay? That she married a man who had the same name as her brother. She married a man who looked exactly like pictures of her brother. And she helped that man get citizenship. And then after the citizenship went through, she divorced same man. Now, that is called immigration fraud. And therefore, she should and will, I believe, lose her citizenship. At which point, I believe Donald Trump is looking forward to sending her out of the country, which is what she deserves. If she broke the law and she used that her place, then she should be sent out for that abuse. Let me know what you guys think. Comment below. I'll see you guys next time. Be blessed.
I had a crazy idea. We were
Okay, everybody. Sorry about that last one with George. That was too long. All right. Tomorrow night at 7. And yeah, we got 2 shows in today. Everybody have a good Monday. Have a good work week, and then stay safe, or God bless. Remember, please hit the like, and stay safe, stay strong, eat the faith, and never give up. Signing off, Chico Dude, and thanks KK and Ariella. JJ, everyone. God bless everybody involved. We'll see you tomorrow night.